Hello! Welcome back to the UiPath Introductory Training. Now we've covered quite a few things in this unit, so let's try a new exercise that will tie together all the new things that we've learned. We want to automate a kids guessing game. The computer chooses a random number between 0 and 1000 and we will try to guess it. It will respond with hints like higher and lower depending on if your guess was smaller or larger than the random number, and so on, till you get it right. So, we could break it down to this. First, generate a random number between 0 and 1000. Then, have the user guess the number. If the guess was correct, respond with a message and stop. And if not, respond with higher or lower depending on the user's guess. Then, repeat the whole process if the user guessed wrong. So, back in our master flowchart, let's add a new flowchart and name it Guessing Game. Connect it to the start node so that will be the one that actually runs, and double-click it to edit. Let's start with the hardest part, generating a random number. Now we'll do that by assigning to a new variable called random this value, new random.next between 0 and 1000. It is a .NET command that you can easily find if you Google something like .NET random number. Okay, so now that you have the only missing piece of the puzzle, you can stop the video and try solving it yourself. Now if you need to, rewind the video for hints. Then after you're done, you can resume the video and see how we did it and compare. Okay, moving on with our solution. Now we have our random number. We need to ask the user to guess it. We'll go ahead and add a new input dialog and fill in the title and label. And the important part, the output variable. We'll create a new one called guess. Now that we have the random number and user's guess, we'll add a decision node and test whether the guess was correct. So for the condition, we'll put guess equals random. For the true branch, add a message box saying that it's correct. Now for the false branch, we have to output two different messages, depending on a condition. So, drag in another decision node and connect it to the false branch of this decision node. For the condition, we'll put guess less than random. This way, we'll know which hint to display. We could have two different messages for the true and false branches of the decision, but then you'd have two message boxes, one after the other, one of the two hints, and then the input dialog. Here is a more elegant solution. We'll create a new variable using an assign action and store it in a hint. So, right-click, new variable, we'll name it hint, and the hint for the true branch is guess a bigger number. And for the other, guess a smaller number. Now we'll connect these two assign blocks to the input box. And this way, if you guessed higher or lower than the correct number, the process will start again from the input dialog. Now there's one last thing to do, and that is to change the display message from the current "what's the number" question to the hint we generated here. So we'll just put here, hint. Now when we run the workflow, the message box has no text, and that's because the hint variable doesn't yet have a value. But after the first guess, the hint is initialized and displayed. Now we could easily solve that by giving it initial value, but I'll leave that to you. Now that's all for this episode of Control Flow. As a second exercise, try creating the guessing game we just made, but in a sequence. It should be fairly easy with what you've learned today. And make sure you tune in for the next episode. I'll see you then. Bye.